Okay, we're recording, and I wanted to make this video because I did say that if anyone could find the quote for me, that I would offer up an apology. And I do plan to do that. But before I actually get into my apology, I just want to actually roll some clips. Roll what Stefan, or as I affectionately call him, Stevie Boy, what he said that Obama said, or Obama says, plural, and that's important, and we'll get to that. And then I want to go over what the clip that was supplied to me of the actual quote that was taken years ago, and as far as I know, I've never heard repeated, so it wasn't a says thing. But I'm going to roll both clips, and then I want to discuss them and make some very valid points. Okay, and after I do so, I will offer the apology that I promised. Okay, so let's roll the first clip.
Principle and property rights, two sides of the same coin, to the center of how we organize society, it looks very different. It looks like a society without a government, because a government, by definition, and this is by Barack Obama's definition, this isn't something I'm just making up, a government is a group of individuals with a monopoly on the right and the obligation to initiate the use of force in a geographical area. To pass taxes. Taxes are the initiation of force. I have not stolen from anyone, yet people can come and steal from me. I'm just sitting in my study, yet people can come and take my house if I don't give them money. And if I resist them, they'll shoot me down. So a government has a legal right to initiate force, according to the non-aggression principle and property.
Okay, now that was the first clip that I was talking about, that I explained. Just sounded pretty ridiculous to me, because I don't see as, any president of the United States, particularly Obama, defining government in that way. Now, it could be argued that, given his policy, that what he said is true, and even, as far as how he's enacted certain policy. But to say that President Barack Obama defines government in that way, well, let's see what Obama actually said, okay? So we'll roll that clip.
The core of our military's relationship to the nation and how accountability is structured. I think you are privatizing something that is what essentially sets a nation state apart, which is the monopoly on violence.
Okay, so we have these clips, and I think it's very clear to explain that what Stevie Boy claimed was this was a definition of government. And I hadn't watched the clip since yesterday, but I pretty much remember the points that I wanted to make. Was that as I saw the clip that was provided to me as what President Obama says, well, it wasn't a direct quote. Some argue, well, Stevie Boy didn't say that it was a direct quote. He just said the president says. Well, I want to make this clear, that in the English language that most of us speak, if we say that somebody says something, it implies that it's something they say often. Like if I were to say, Wayne Dyer, says, you'll see it when you believe it. Well, that's something that he says. He says that often. He has a lecture circuit that he's said that a lot. So it would be fair to say, and that's even a direct quote, even if I were to twist it a little, like, Wayne Dyer says that when you believe in something, then you will see it come to fruition. Well, that's not the same words exactly, but the meaning is close enough. So, if I were to say Terence McKenna says, culture is not your friend, he says that often. There's a number of lectures and a number of situations and interviews where he's used that phrase. So to say that President Obama defines government as, first he says this is the definition of government, then he says, and even Obama uses this definition or says this, it's pretty clear that what Obama was responding to a question. We don't know what the specific question was. To me, it sounds like, I'm just speculating here. From that clip, I haven't found the entire interview. Be honest, I haven't really looked for it because I don't want to put too much energy into this thing. But any more than hopefully this will be my last interview or my last video. But the point that I'm making is, it sounded to me like he was talking about privatization of force versus national force. And what he said, as I viewed the video, was that it sets nation states apart. He didn't say they're defined by that. If I were to say, Stevie Boy is defined by having a bald head, I think that would be pretty insulting because, hey, I used to shave my head too. The point is, not that he has a shaved head that is insulting. The fact that you would take someone like a person who has many facets, and I assume that he does, and define them by one thing. So what we have in the quote as I read it is he's talking about a property of nation states that set them apart. He's not saying they're defined by that. So the way that Stevie Boy twisted that quote to mean something entirely different. He wasn't, he didn't say I define government as. He didn't even say the definition of government. He said that a monopoly on force sets unions, and I'm not quoting him, but as I think I'm a hell of a lot closer than what Stevie Boy's interpretation of what the president said. He said it sets nation states apart. And I can, I would bet my left nut that if you were to ask President Obama, how do you define government, that would only be one aspect of it. There are so many other aspects to what government and governance is that have nothing to do with monopoly of force. And whether it does or doesn't is also another issue that I'm not sure has been, I've heard arguments on it. I don't want to get bogged down into that now. I think that it's very likely in a very arguable position. Probably about 80% sold on it, but there's still some other. But I'm not going to get bogged down into that. The point that I'm making, and I do, it's not like I hate Stevie Boy. I agree with him on a lot of issues, but I don't, I think he's disingenuous with how he has abused this quote, this thing that the president said. I think that, it's just apparent. And you have to watch out for that, because when people start twisting words and meaning, see, earlier in my other video I said, I am not so sure that he's doing this on purpose. Well, now I'm very confident that he is. The man is a highly intelligent man, and he also really strikes me as the kind of person who does have an element of controlling other people. He pushes this element of, don't communicate with the infidels, don't talk to the unwashed. I see that in his fanboys. And, I've recently been defooed, and, that for everyone who doesn't want to talk to me because they have a narrow vision of what truth is, I gain usually 5 more friends who are able to discuss intelligently, who don't have a narrow point of view, and do see that there's many perspectives on truth. So it's a silly kind of thing, but it's also a dangerous thing, because I see so many people who are following this guy. Their arguments are linguistically based because he uses linguistics for his arguments. And he twists words. That's out. But the thing is, he calls taxation stealing. Now, this is a point I want to make. Highly intelligent people don't need to redefine words to make an intelligent point. Noam Chomsky might say, well, if you are obliged to work for your sustenance, whether it be by chains or by servitude to an employer, that is no different than slavery. But he doesn't redefine employment as slavery. Not in the literal sense. He doesn't go around lectures, expecting his ilk to know that when he says, employment, or when he says slavery, that he means employment. Whereas Stevie Boy, he's, his lectures and his talks, he'll say, use of force. And this is the thing, is he redefined the word tax, too, in his quote, as use of force. Anyone who starts twisting language like this, it's like Fox News or Goebbels, or anyone who wants to, our cult leaders do this. They know that if they can control the language you use, since thoughts are connected to language, they can control your thoughts. And this is exactly what's happening. And this is why when, I see that, that's one of the first things that starts, making the needle on the bullshit meter peg. Intelligent people who make intelligent arguments know how to use the language as words are already defined to make their point. One person said Webster's doesn't have a monopoly on the English language. It was an argument that I got. And, I think there's something to be said for the evolution of language, but there's a big difference between having consensus on language and one dictionary company having a monopoly. They don't have a monopoly, by the way, but you can basically have consensus on what words mean. If for you the word cornflakes is synonymous with the word turd, I sure as hell would not want to have breakfast at your house. So, I want to wrap this up. I don't want to put too much more energy into it. It's just, I do have to get by, because I did say that if someone found the quote that I would apologize, because I called him a liar. And quite frankly, I think this is worse. I think it's worse because it is a lie when you take someone's words and twist them to say that they said something that they never said. I accused him of pulling this out of his ass, is what I had said, and of him being a liar. And I want to make my apology now. Only I think that because, Stevie did manipulate the phrase, that I don't owe the apology to him as much as I owe it to his ass, of which I accused him of pulling it out of. So, let me, I am sorry, Steve Molyneux' ass. I really am. I accused you of being the source of the quote. And, little did I know that, in fact, you were only partially responsible. He only pulled out of his ass the elements of it that he could use to manufacture a different meaning than the actual original quote. So I am sorry, Steve Molyneux's ass. I apologize. And I'd also like to address this issue to Steve's head, but I feel that somehow it's up there too and has already hurt me. Okay. Now, hopefully, unless for some reason I cannot imagine, this will be my got a little bit of ash there. This will be my final video on this topic. I've made my point. I've made what to any reasonable person who watches him and knows how he twists words and twists meanings, and how he manipulates people who follow him by telling them to cut off ties to people who disagree. That's also, like I said, a big red flag. And given that some of the more intelligent responses I get are in agreement, the name calling are in agreement with me. The name calling and really silly linguistically based arguments that are non-rational are usually an attack on me. I just want to say that there's a saying, never argue with an idiot. He will pull you down to his level and then beat you with experience. So I'm not going to engage with his fanboys any more than I have to. And unless there's an extreme situation, I really don't feel that I really don't want to make any more videos on this topic. I think I've said all that really needs to be said. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And I'm going to keep tabs on him just out of curiosity. But I think I can tell what he's about. It's a Joe the Plumber kind of mentality. So hopefully anyone watching this got something out of it. And if you are one of Stevie's fanboys, by all means, expand your horizons. Look at what reasonable and rational arguments are, and learn to tell how people are manipulated by language. Look up Orwell, and look up the way other people who have studied this, and then you should see what Stevie Boy is doing. Okay? Peace.
No, wait! Something is wrong. He looks slightly more brain-dead than usual. Joey, snap out of it!
There is no Joey. There is only Steve.
That's right, Pharaoh. Our names have both been legally changed. We take orders from Marek now. Tee-hee-hee-hee-hee.
Taya has been Steved. This is horrible, and yet strangely erotic.
They've been brainwashed, Seto.
Personally, I blame the rap music.